Excited to see how he adjusts here, and let's start getting into this match.
The leads are what I'm really curious here, because with Colossal, there's so many options, and here you go. You know, it doesn't even need to be Colossal. Why not Zacian instead?
The Zacian and Amoonguss coming out next to the Whimsicott and the Thunderous here, and I'm excited to see what these players are going to be going for.
Yeah, this turn one's really interesting. One thing to note is that Whimsicott can actually take away the Zacian's item, so switcheroo on it actually is not an option here. Another thing to watch out for is the item on Amoonguss. I'm curious if it's something like a Koba Berry, for example. And so, yeah, if you want to guarantee that the Amoonguss doesn't get a Spore off this turn, I think the play that Jiseok's going for makes a lot of sense. Switcheroo just to guarantee that you take away a Koba, potential Koba, or Focus Sash, and you force it out. Zacian is, you know, in a strong spot, but if it doesn't have Play Rough, it actually can't do that much damage to Thunderous, even with something like a Behemoth Blade. So, you know, I definitely like the decision to not just lead Colossal here from Mike's end, because, like I mentioned, if you lead it and that Whimsicott actually just gets that switcheroo off immediately, it feels really, really bad.
Right, so, as we saw in the menu select, Max Thunderous coming out on Jiseok's side here, and I'm interested to see what the Zacian on the other side is going to be going for. Whimsicott with that switcheroo, taking away the item from the Amoonguss, and is going to be that Koba Berry. Zacian just going for his substitute instead here, looking to set up a little bit, but this Max Airstream is going to be dealing a good amount of damage into this Amoonguss, and actually just is going to straight pick up this KO without that Koba Berry to stop it.
So normally, you know, with the eject button, like with the switcheroo strategy, the goal was to just, you know, bump something out. That's really nice, especially if it's a Dynamax Pokemon. But that's the other thing about switcheroo. You can just steal items away, and to get rid of the Koba Berry like that and guarantee a KO onto Amoonguss is really, really nice for Jiseok. So a great turn one there. I think from Mike's end, substitute was definitely the really solid option there. You could go for the Behemoth Blade onto Whimsicott as well, but then that actually gives Jiseok a free switch in, and you actually don't really want to do that often in scenarios like this. So what's interesting now is that you can't eject the Colossal out. Colossal is still a pretty good max option, right? Can go for that Volcalith, get those rocks up for the remainder of the next couple of turns. Thunderous here, you know, did get that speed boost. You can outspeed that Zacian. I really like the Max Lightning play here. Just break that substitute. Switcheroo from the Colossal ensures that you can't go for any weakness policy setups in the late game here.
Right, so we are going to see that Max Colossal coming out on Mike's side here, but no way to be activating it before that weakness policy gets stolen away by this Whimsicott here. Whimsicott with all the shenanigans happening, and I'm interested to see what Mike is going to be going for. Of course, Whimsicott starting off with that switcheroo. The Colossal holding on to its brand new sparkling Koba Berry. Max Lighting is going to connect with that Zacian here and break this substitute.
Yeah, and so, you know, both of these Pokemon now can actually do a lot of damage this turn. You could easily go for Behemoth Blade and that Volcalith. The double up onto Thunders would actually be pretty interesting. I think part of the thing is right now you actually don't want to KO Whimsicott, because if Whimsicott faints, then Jiseok gets two really strong Pokemon out on the field. So yeah, that's actually where the Behemoth Blade's going into him. That's still a lot of damage.
All right, with the Colossal, with that Volcalith, if it's also going into this Thunderous, which it is going to pick up that KO. The double target is going to take that Thunderous down, as well setting up the rocks to continue dealing damage on Jiseok's side here.
That's a great play by Mike, I think. I really like the decision to double up onto that Thunderous. And one thing to note, I think often players think, hey, why don't I just go for super effective attacks onto whatever is in front of me, right? What's also really tough for Jiseok here is he has that Clefairy in the back, and so there's actually only one damage dealer left at that point, and that's that Calyrex Shadow Rider. So you basically need to sweep with this Calyrex Shadow Rider in the next couple of turns to win the game, because Jiseok's team is designed around snowballing very quickly. He had a really solid turn one, but effectively you traded Amoonguss for that Dynamax Thunderous, and I actually think that's a great trade at the end of the day if you're Mike. So Mike going with that Amoonguss, saying I don't even need to get the Steam Engine weakness policy stuff activated on Colossal. If I can bait you into Dynamaxing Thunderous, then I can just bring the Colossal out and put in a lot of work. So now the Calyrex is out. There's a lot of offensive pressure coming out. You obviously have that Astral Barrage as well as that Mud Shot, but my question is, can you pick up a one-hit KO onto something And then also from Mike's side, you know, you could easily protect or max guard with either of these Pokemon. So if you're predicting one Pokemon to faint this turn and, you know, correctly max it or protect it, that would be huge. But maybe Mike's just content attacking with both Pokemon this turn because he's not worried about getting KO'd.
All right, that's the one thing about the Colossal too, as you said, the weakness policy being stolen away and not getting set up. But the thing is with Colossal, not dealing as much damage, but having the ability to be setting up that rocks to continuously deal damage, that adds up so much. And it didn't get set up, but it didn't really need to be getting set up to be putting in some work here. So Jiseok is going to go for that helping hand onto the Calyrex, just trying to make sure it can get as much damage as possible out. The Zacian, though, is going to go for the Protect. Nothing's going to be happening to it this turn. The Astral Barrage coming out, and let's see how much damage it's going to do to this Colossal. Sizable amount of damage, taking it down to just under half of its HP, but this Volplith is going to come out into the Calyrex and deal a sizable amount of damage back.
Yeah, let's see. You know, Helping Hand plus Astral Barrage did do a lot of damage there, and so I think another one maybe just picks up a double KO here. So in order to win the game, Mike just needs the Calyrex to faint, right? And between Life Orb and the Volplith damage, it is dangerously close, especially with those 2 turns of Volplith left. So I think Mike at this point, he doesn't know like Clefairy's in the back yet, right? So that's also part of the equation. Like, I think if I'm Mike, I'm probably expecting that Urshifu to be the last Pokemon from Jiseok's side. That being said, you know, your Zacian just protected. Colossal here might want to consider a max guard. Zacian could consider a switch out, or maybe you're willing to just let it faint here to use whatever your last Pokemon is, but I could see Mike switching out that Zacian. Yeah, that's exactly what happens.
Sure enough, that Zacian is going to be swapping out, bringing in that Urshifu instead here. The Helping Hand Astral Barrage is surely going to be coming out, and see how much it's going to do. The Colossal is, in fact, though, going to be going for that max guard, so it gets to stick around safely. And as you said, between the Life Orb damage and the Rocks damage, don't think the Calyrex is going to be making it too much further in this match, which is essentially leaving Jiseok with 2 support Pokemon out on the field against all this offensive pressure that Mike's able to offer. Of course, the Urshifu with that Focus Sash gets to stick around for another turn, and this isn't looking too positive on Jiseok's side here.
And this has got to be the best feeling. It feels like your birthday when Clefairy comes out as the last Pokemon, right? This is maybe the least threatening thing that Jiseok could have had at the end of this game. And so I really like how Mike played this end game, right? Turn 1 didn't go well for him, but it was okay because this is one thing that's really big in VGC, especially in Sword and Shield, right? If you can get your opponent to Dynamax first and then have something that counters that Dynamax effectively, you know, Colossal, really, really good counter to that Thundurus, even without the weakness policy. We actually saw that in some of Joseph's games as well, right? Earlier when he was playing with Colossal, he says, I don't really need the Steam Engine and the weakness policy to go off because Colossal is still a really good Pokemon, and turns out so is Assault Vest Thundurus. I think that's one reason why a lot of players used Colossal going into this tournament, because Assault Vest Thundurus was trending so much going into this event. So I really like how Mike played that, you know, kind of baited the turn 1 Dynamax out of Thundurus and then was really able to go from there. I think Jiseok brought that Clefairy, and it just didn't make very much sense in the context of this game. He probably brought it hoping for Whimsicott to faint, so then you can just spam like Clefairy plus Thundurus, Clefairy plus Calyrex, but Mike played really smart, didn't let that happen. So I think if you're Jiseok, you maybe consider the adjustment, don't bring Clefairy, bring something like that Urshifu in the back of this next game, or a Regieleki.
Yeah, as offensive as Jiseok's team is, if the last 2 Pokemon out on the field are support Pokemon, nothing is really going to be done. And that Colossal with that G-Max Volplith, as you said, weakness policy, it wasn't dealing too much damage by itself, but the Rocks damage really adding up at the end of the game, able to pick up that KO on the Calyrex and leave Jiseok in a position where he couldn't really respond. So I'm interested to see how he switches up the team and what he's going to be bringing in for this Clefairy instead, because I'm sure we're not going to be seeing it going into the second game here.
All right, so let's get this next game started. Curious if Mike adjusts his lead. I think the Munga Zacian was smart. Looks like he is content just to go with it once again.
All right, Regieleki and Urshifu coming out on Jiseok's side here. A very different lead here, but kind of like it. I'm interested to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I definitely like it as well. I mean, the ability to just put on, like, you don't need the Tailwind as much, right? Especially, and I was saying before we got into this that I didn't think Dynamax Regieleki would be a thing, but here we are. Jiseok going for the Max Alecki, and that's pretty neat too, because then the Amoonguss can't go for any spores, you know, afterwards. So well, that is definitely not an adjustment I was thinking about at all, but I think you can see Jiseok's awareness with this team. He's really willing to Dynamax this Regieleki, and I love that decision here.
I love too that we got to feature 2 games back to back, and like you said, looking at this team, Max Regieleki isn't the first thing you necessarily think of, but it's really just been the feature that we keep seeing over and over, and I'm excited to see it put up work. As you said, getting that electric thing set up is going to be really nice now that there's not that first turn KO pressure really on that Amoonguss with that Max Airstream. So I'm interested to see how Mike responds to this Max Alecki that he happens to see staring him down right now.
I think that's the beauty of Dynamax Regieleki once again. So few people ever expect that on turn 1. It just doesn't Dynamax that frequently. So in the end, the safe Rage Powder here, but I like the Max Lightning plus Wicked Blow play. I'm curious, though, if that's enough to actually KO the Amoonguss here. I think Amoonguss, if it's really defensively invested, might actually be able to survive, and that would be a big deal. But yeah, let's see.
Right, Zacian is going to go for that Behemoth Blade here, and it's going to be targeting into the Max Regieleki here. Surely would have been enough if it didn't Dynamax, but instead Regieleki hanging on with a nice little chunk of HP here to stick around to do some more damage next turn. Wicked Blow connecting with that Amoonguss is not going to be enough here. Amoonguss getting to stick around for another turn as well. The Amoonguss is always so difficult to take out of the field. In that first game, I mean, it disappeared pretty fast, but Amoonguss is so bulky that in most cases it doesn't actually get KO'd that first turn so easily.
Yeah, absolutely agreed. I think here, Jiseok once again going for the safe play. By doubling up into Zacian, it covers for Amoonguss getting greedy and going for a Protect. So I think from Mike's end, safest option here really is to just go for that Rage Powder again, eat up that Max Lightning. Zacian, you know, picks up the KO into Regieleki, but Mike also could be scared of Regieleki protecting here. Like one possible play Jiseok could make was protect that Regieleki, go for a Wicked Blow onto Amoonguss. So Zacian here might be a little bit nervous to actually target down that Regieleki, so we'll see.
Great, Rage Powder from the Amoonguss yet again. Regieleki is going to pick up the KO this time around, but being able to seal that hit away from the Zacian means that the Zacian will have the opportunity to be hitting an attack here. And going for the Behemoth Blade, this time it looks like it's going to be targeting into the Urshifu.
Yeah. Oh, that's absolutely huge. I think Mike expecting the Max Guard there on Regieleki. Jiseok does not go for that. And now you just get so much damage on the board, right? That's 2 turns of Dynamax over, and it's that critical 3rd turn with Regieleki. That's really, really important here. Like the fact that you can pressure with 1 more Max Lightning before fainting with the electric terrain up is a really big deal. So I think, you know, a lot of Jiseok's games that we've seen with this Regieleki, like Dynamax Regieleki ends up staying on the field for 3 entire turns, which, you know, typically doesn't happen, but the reason Jiseok's been able to go for this is because he Dynamaxes the Eleki in situations where there's not that much that pressures the Regieleki with a 1-hit KO, and then the opponent has to play those mind games of, does Regieleki actually max guard or not? So the Colossal coming out once again, but I think Jiseok's positioning a lot better this time around. I really love the decision to not lead the Whimsicott as well, because turns out, you know, Jiseok's team is just faster. The risk in leading that is if Mike makes the mix-up and actually just leads with Colossal immediately, but he didn't do that in this game. And so Jiseok definitely getting the better lead matchup, and then, yeah, I just love the Dynamax Regieleki option once again. Really brilliantly played.
Great. The Colossal does come out on Mike's side here to start dealing some more pressure backs, and it is going to be going for that Dynamax. Same thing, there's no way to really activate the Steam Engine weakness policy, but the last match, it didn't really matter, and I don't really think it's going to matter right now anyways. You can still offer so much offensive pressure, and the fact that this is the last turn of Regieleki's max and the first turn of the Colossal's max, I mean, this could be a little dangerous. The Urshifu going for that Sucker Punch just to deal some chip damage here, combined with that Max Lightning, is going to take a lot of damage here, but that Colossal still holding on with a sizable amount of HP as this Zacian goes for the Behemoth Blade to just clean up this Urshifu here.
I think it's actually really smart to double up onto Colossal there. Obviously, one, because Colossal is the main threat, but one way you could lose this game, right, if you're Jiseok, is you knock out the Zacian, you give Mike a free switch in into something like an Activate That Steam Engine and that Weakness Policy, something like Dragapult or the Urshifu, right? So it's really clever here to actually intentionally not knock out the Zacian because you just get 2 free switch-ins. Now, the question is whether or not the 2 Pokemon in the back can really handle this late game. It is going to be Clefairy still this time around with that Calyrex Shadow Rider. And so, yeah, I think like now Clefairy here has redirection support and Calyrex can just go with those Astral Barrages, which are really, really powerful as well. And Clefairy with that potential Helping Hand support can potentially just, I think, pick up a double KO from this range. So you can just go for something like Helping Hand and the... I don't even know if you need Helping Hand, to be honest. Both of these are pretty low, but, you know, it just maybe guarantees the KO onto Colossal, whereas without Helping Hand, maybe Colossal hangs out with a sliver of HP, and that could be a little bit scary. But I think Clefairy plus Calyrex definitely the best duo to have here in the back. I would have been a little bit nervous for Jiseok if his last one was actually that Whimsicott instead.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if we were going to be seeing it going into the second game, considering how little it got to do in the first one. But next to that, Calyrex is definitely a force to be reckoned with, is going to go for that Helping Hand. The Zacian, though, opting to protect, not wanting to get KO'd from this attack. And Colossal also with that max guard. So we see a turn to the max, but both of these Pokemon get to stick around for the next turn, and both of Jiseok's Pokemon just taking a bit of rock. So I'm interested to see what Mike's going to do next turn, now knowing what Jiseok can do and knowing that there's the potential for both of these Pokemon to get KO'd.
Yeah, and it's tough, right? I think Mike going for the best play, you just get that vocal damage off, but now you've protected with both Pokemon, right? So maybe your best play is to try to go for a double protect with one and switch out the other. Or even just go for a double protect with both, just to get more vocal damage off. But Calyrex is looking so good in this endgame. Zacian actually does get the double off. Okay.
Going for the double protect and hitting the double protect. The Colossal, not quite as fortunate, though, going for the max guard. But unfortunately, it does fail. So this Astral Barrage will hit into it and pick up the KO on this Colossal here.
Yeah, and I just don't really see a way Mike can win this endgame because the Calyrex, you know, being able to outspeed can just consistently go for these Astral Barrages, right? So Mike brings out whatever his last Pokemon is, you know, Dragapult or Urshifu, but neither of those can really take Astral Barrage super well. And then you just can go for Follow Me plus Astral Barrage. As long as Calyrex outspeeds the opposing side, you know, Astral Barrage should definitely finish off the Zacian, I think, at this point with that special attack boost. So let's see what last Pokemon Mike has in the back. But to be honest, I think regardless, the Calyrex should close it out from Jiseok's side now. Yeah, it's just, unless, maybe if you get like a third Protect on Zacian and, you know, your Focus Sash on the Urshifu, that actually would be really interesting. You see here, Jiseok's actually just, you know, considering Moonblasting. That makes a lot of sense as well. I think Follow Me still feels a little bit safer in case, because it feels like you actually lose the game if the Calyrex Shadow Rider just gets KO'd. So I think I like Follow Me more. Looks like he's thinking about that option as well. Moonblast just scares me a little bit because, you know, Urshifu can then Surging Strikes into Calyrex, and if that's enough for a KO, that actually could be really scary, and then Zacian gets like a triple Protect off. But
so
it's Urshifu protecting.
Instead, going for the Protect, and Astral Barrage will be coming out. Zacian not risking it, going for the triple Protect here, and it is going to pick up the KO here. So 2v1 this Urshifu versus both of the Pokemon. It is open team sheet, so I'm assuming if Jiseok was looking at Moonblasting into the Urshifu, that there is that Focus Sash potential here, looking to break it, but with that Protect, no damage is being done as Jiseok continues to just take a lot of damage from these Vocalith rocks.
Yeah, so, you know, now both Pokemon are pretty low, and I guess I can see Mike's angle here where you Surging Strikes into the Clefairy slot and then Aqua Jet to hope to KO the Calyrex. I think that's basically the angle that he's going for here, which actually makes a lot of sense to me instead of trying to go for like a triple Protect, for example. So Astral Barrage here will bring it down to its Focus Sash if it's carrying one, and, you know, most Urshifus are carrying that Sash. There it is. So Surging Strikes will come out, and then the question is, can the Calyrex survive an Aqua Jet?
Sure, after that Surging Strikes, this is gonna get really close here. Clefairy taking these 3 hits.
Oh,
is it gonna be enough for the KO though? Unfortunately, Clefairy just holding on barely, is going to get the opportunity to go back with a Moonblast and seal up the game. That was really close. I mean, Mike played that as well as he could have at the end, recognizing the out. I mean, the damage built up over time on Jiseok's side with those rocks made it really close to where that Clefairy almost got KO'd, but unfortunately wasn't quite enough damage, and we're going to a game 3 here.
That was really intense. I mean, I really like how Mike played that end game, recognizing, hey, I basically need to try to get some protects off and then get a free switch into Urshifu. Ended up opting not for that triple protect on Zacian, which is, you know, the odds of that are obviously slim, so you don't want to gamble on that. I like the protect on the Urshifu end as well. And if Clefairy faints there, I think Aqua Jet might just KO the Calyrex Shadow Rider. So the Clefairy hitting down with just the slimmest of HPs, allowing it to survive and then pick up the KO. The only other play I was thinking of was, yeah, Mike maybe going for, like I said, the triple protect and then surging strikes into Calyrex, but that doesn't really work if you don't get the triple protect, because then both of your Pokemon just faint that turn. So I think the play Mike made was absolutely the best, was just hoping to, you know, get that knockout into Clefairy and then finish things off with an Aqua Jet. But that was a really great game from both players. I mean, I think Jiseok making such a good adjustment with the lead, and then Mike still really fighting it out despite what was a less than ideal start to the game.
All right, so that being said, let's get started with our game 3 here. Really excited. I mean, we got to see that Max Regieleki. Mike knows that that's a possibility going into this game, and leads the Zacian Amoonguss with Regieleki yet again coming out on Jiseok's side, but next to the Whimsicott this time around.
So I'm thinking Jiseok led the Whimsicott here because he was maybe expecting Mike to make a little bit of a mix-up. I was thinking one thing Mike could do if he wanted to change his strategy up is actually just go with Colossal immediately. If you're expecting the same lead from last time, Colossal can actually apply significantly more pressure. This time around with Whimsicott and Lecky, you know, you can still eject stuff out. You might consider not Dynamaxing the Regieleki this time around, and yeah, it looks like he's going for the switcheroo Electro Web play. Amoonguss could protect here, which would be interesting, right? Just protect the Amoonguss, and then Zacian could either go for a substitute or just eliminate that Whimsicott from the field immediately. But looks like Mike would rather play it safe, you know, doesn't want to risk something like a Helping Hand Max Lightning into Zacian turn 1. And I think you can always feels good to just go for the safest play possible, because you don't want to just lose the game on turn 1.
So Amoonguss with that eject button now is going to take that Electro Web and get swapped right out of here. Electro Web, of course, bringing the Zacian speed down as well here. And I'm interested to see what Mike brings in here for this Amoonguss.
Let's see. I'm also curious, you know, who's Zacian targeted here. Either way, it's a ton of damage on the board, and Whimsicott, Regieleki, probably the two of the most frail, like, you know, standard Pokemon that you see in Series A, and we also know it's not, you know, Focus Sash Whimsicott either.
All right, Colossal coming back in for the Amoonguss here. The Behemoth Blade. Let's see where it targets. And it is going to go into the Regieleki this time, dealing a sizable amount of damage, but not enough to be picking up this KO here, and it gets to stick around.
Yeah, it doesn't pick up the KO, but once again, I like the decision to not target the Whimsicott. One thing that's been tough for Jiseok in this matchup is, yeah, if you're using Whimsicott or Clefairy, they're not really doing very much damage. I mean, they do have a Fairy-type attack, right, so that helps specifically against Urshifu, but otherwise, they really just sit on the field for a while and don't do very much. And so, Mike's been very calculated in his decision to not KO Whimsicott intentionally. I think that's been really, really smart. Now Colossal can go for that Gigantamax, get that Volcarona off, and it's definitely likely let both of the Pokemon faint this turn, but Mike also could make the decision to intentionally not target the Whimsicott once again and force this to be like a 2v1 where you're basically targeting Whimsicott's partner for the remainder of the game. So let's see what approach he takes here.
Yeah, that Whimsicott, I mean, the Whimsicott can be so scary, but once it runs out of things to do, it's not actually offering any offensive pressure beyond that. So it is going to go for that Helping Hand next to that Regieleki. Regieleki firing off a Thunderbolt into the Zacian and is going to pick up that KO there.
So I was wondering if Zacian was considering like a protect in that position because of the threat of Helping Hand plus Thunderbolt. It is actually going to be the Whimsicott target this time around. So going down to 21 HP. This time around, I mean, Mike's going to go down to his last Pokemon immediately. I mean, very, very quickly. Well, he's still got the Amoonguss in the back, but getting rid of Zacian, you know, definitely not bad for a Jiseok, but the question is, how do you really deal with this Colossal right now? He doesn't even have Steam Engine or Weakness Policy activated. And once again, this is the problem that I think Jiseok ran into in the first game, right? There's not that much damage. It's really Shadow Rider Calyrex that you're depending on right now. But the Amoonguss in the back can just come out from Mike's end, and then you can just go for something like Rage Powder, right? And it's just tricky because the Volclip damage adds up on that Regieleki. You know, it's going to be fainting very, very soon. Clefairy is in the back, but you definitely don't want to bring out Clefairy right now, so you're basically forced to go out into the Calyrex, and Mike's actually going to opt for that Urshifu, so now you can even potentially just go for the Self-Aqua Jet, or even just go for Aqua Jet onto the Regieleki and a regular Volclip into Calyrex. That feels like a solid option as well.
I'm interested to see how this all plays out here. I think Jiseok recognizing that this Regieleki is not going to be holding on for too much longer with this rock damage, contemplating a switch into the Clefairy, but I mean, it's a little difficult here. You don't really want to go down to just 2 Pokemon already, but at the same time, you're not going to be then maximizing the Regieleki on this turn either. So, and as you said, the Aqua Jet from the Urshifu being able to either target into that Regieleki slot or to be hitting into the Colossal to actually get a setup going on is very dangerous.
Yeah, so this should be interesting. I like what Jiseok's going for here. I think he realizes he's kind of in a hole where, you know, the only way you're actually really dealing damage into Colossal is that Max Quake from the Calyrex. So, for example, if Mike misplays this turn and doesn't knock out the Calyrex and Calyrex gets that Max Quake off into Colossal, then the next turn, you know, you can just go for a redirection with the Clefairy that is now on the field, right, and redirect another attack away. So if, like, Mike actually went for that Self-Aqua Jet, you know, with the Friend Guard now, I think the Calyrex should definitely survive the turn. And then the question is, would Max Quake KO? It is going to be the Self-Aqua Jet play. Okay.
All right, so now, as you said, it's just a question of, is this Colossal going to be dealing enough damage here to make it worth it? It is going to be going first here with that Steam Engine, going for another Volcalith here, is hitting into Calyrex and not doing anywhere what it needs to be doing, and is going to be getting a Max Quake hit into it in return, which is going to be picking up that KO.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that the Volclip damage is going to add up very quickly here as well. And so, I mean, that's what Mike's going for. You have the Amoonguss for redirection support. Urshifu does have Surging Strikes, and Surging Strikes, of course, actually does a lot of damage. And the other thing is you can't really protect the Clefairy right now either. Amoonguss still, you know, in the back can come in for redirection support. So Jiseok does get a really big KO there on Slip Colossal. I think if you ignore Colossal that turn, Colossal, if it gets even another attack off after the Weakness Policy and Steam Engine go off, is looking very, very strong. We know that the Urshifu here has the Focus Sash. There's an Amoonguss here in the back. I'm really curious if the Amoonguss can take a... I mean, yeah, whether or not it can take like a +1 Max Phantasm. Now, there's no Psychic type attack. I think if there were a Psychic type attack onto this Calyrex, this endgame might be a little bit easier. So then you have to make the decision, do you think Amoonguss is going to go for a Rage Powder or a Protect here? It could even gamble and go for a Spore, which is pretty risky. Urshifu here can Surging Strikes into the Clefairy slot. I don't think that's enough for a KO, though, even after the Volcalith damage. So I don't know. I mean, Jiseok actually has put himself into a position where, hey, this Calyrex is looking pretty good. The question is basically, can you pick up knockouts in these next 2 turns? And do you target the Amoonguss, right? Does Amoonguss go for a Rage Powder? Does it Protect? Does it Spore? There are a lot of mind games right now, and it looks like Jiseok is just going to opt for the safe Phantasm into the Amoonguss slot, but it protects.
Sure enough, the Amoonguss going for that Protect. So the Max Phantasm, I mean, getting some chip damage through it, which is a little nice, but surely not what you want to see there. The defense drop, though, coming in, which isn't really going to be relevant here either, considering the last 2 Pokemon are special attackers. The Surging Strikes is going to come out, hitting into that Calyrex here, and it's not going to be enough to straight KO, but with the Rocks damage, it might be.
Oh, it's close.
It's going to come right down to the wire here. And I am not quite sure. Moonblast hitting into the Urshifu, bringing it right down to its Focus Sash here, and I'm just waiting to see how this Rocks damage deals out.
Yeah, me too. I mean, in that opportunity, let's see, 28 down to... Oh, it's enough! It is enough!
Just getting there. The Calyrex is going to get KO'd here, and that's a rough one. That was really close. I wasn't sure which way that was going to be going there. So Jiseok left with that Regieleki, which is barely holding on, as well as this Clefairy here.
Yeah, I was thinking from Jiseok's end, you could go for a follow me and a Phantasm into Amoonguss, because yeah, now there's no damage, right? How are you going to actually beat the Amoonguss? You can't do any damage into Amoonguss. So, I mean, Mike going for the good protect on Amoonguss, also great decision to actually go for the Surging Strikes onto Calyrex, because it basically punished exactly what just happened there, right? Jiseok did not go for a follow me there, and as a result, the Calyrex actually ends up fainting. I'm guessing Jiseok didn't think let the Surging Strikes through Friend Guard, and the Volclid damage would actually be enough to pick up the KO, but in the end it was just enough damage. And so that's the thing about Urshifu, getting those multiple crits is really nice. And so wow, I mean, that was a really wild set. Props to both